In 1889, in Paris, the legendary concept of immortality was about to emerge. 72-year-old Siegel walked up to the podium of the French Academy of Sciences and announced to his colleagues that he had achieved rejuvenation. In the past few weeks, he has extracted a mysterious liquid from the special glands of dogs and guinea pigs and personally injected it into his thighs. He said that this allowed him to regain the energy and vitality of his youth. For a time, glandular extracts from various male animals became a hot commodity, from bulls to goats, from monkeys to mice. As long as they were treasures of male animals, they were squeezed into juice and injected into the bodies of men who longed to regain their masculinity. However, the carnival quickly turned into a farce, and people discovered that the effect of this divine medicine was fleeting. Siegel himself also left in a state of ridicule and questioning. If Siegel still retains the dignity of a scientist, then Voronov is completely insane. This Russian-French doctor also claimed to have found the ultimate solution to eternal youth, a monkey's gland. In his opinion, humans and monkeys are so similar. Why not directly borrowing their vitality? In 1920, he performed his first surgery, which was a great success. After the news spread, wealthy people all over the world went crazy. Over the next 10 years, Voronov underwent more than 500 monkey thread transplant surgeries, and his client list was roughly equivalent to the world's richest list, with oil tycoons, steel giants, and European aristocrats coming in droves. However, fantasy is ultimately fantasy, and those who undergo surgery do not become younger, but instead experience severe rejection reactions till the real hormones were discovered. Haha. Voronov's throat lining film collapsed with a loud bang. Although these farces are absurd, they bring a question. Besides the brain and nerves, is there still an invisible, mysterious force in our bodies, quietly regulating our vitality? Growing up emotionally? In fact, just a century before Voronov was busy with transplant surgery, German Professor Berthold had already found evidence. In 1849, he discovered that if the key organs that maintain its male characteristics were removed from the attacking body, empty strikes will make one listless and lose vitality. This doesn't seem unusual. But then Felted did two unnecessary things that changed history. He transplanted the removed organ back into the abdominal cavity of the victim, a place completely disconnected from the nerves. In addition, he also transplanted an organ from a rooster into another male penis from which the organ had been removed. Miracles occurred, and these attacks were completely restored to their former glory. This means that the organ does not function through nerves, but through a substance in the blood. This is the first time in human history that the existence of endocrine system has been proven through irrefutable experiments. Unfortunately, Berthold's discovery was too advanced, and his paper was forgotten in a pile of paper, sleeping for half a century until it was reignited by British physiologists Bellis and Starling. In 1902, they encountered a problem while studying the digestive system. Even if all the nerves connecting the pancreas were cut off, why would the distant pancreas still move when food entered the small intestine? Accurate scoring. How can the easily digestible liquid signal be transmitted through air? They had a sudden idea and guessed that the mole might be the small intestine. So they scraped off a little small intestinal mucosa, processed it briefly, and injected the filtrate directly into the dog's vein. Within seconds, a miracle reappeared, and the pancreas indeed began to secrete a large amount of digestive juices. The truth is revealed that it is not nerves, but a chemical substance produced by the small intestine that enters the bloodstream. Like a pancreas traveling to a distant place in reality and commands it to start working. In order to describe this type of chemical reality that can awaken bodily functions, Starling created a new term for hormones, namely hormones. Since then, human understanding of oneself has shifted from macroscopic organ anatomy to microscopic chemical regulation. In this series of explorations, the greatest thing is that doozy of the outlying islands found that suffering from diabetes at the beginning of the 20th century was equivalent to a death sentence. patients will gradually lose weight due to the inability to utilize sugar, and no matter how much they eat, it will be of no help, ultimately persisting in extreme weakness. Doctors know this is related to the pancreas, but no one knows exactly what substance is controlling blood sugar. In 1921, in a rudimentary laboratory at the University of Toronto, young doctors Bantu and West challenged this terminal illness. Their method is simple and rough. They ligate the pancreatic duct of the dog to make the digestive part of the pancreas shrink, leaving only some special cell clusters, and then extract the secretion of this part and inject it to the dog with diabetes. A miracle happened. The dying dog regained its vitality and blood sugar returned to normal. They named this substance insulin. The following year, a 14-year-old boy named Thompson became the first person to receive insulin treatment. Before the injection, he was hanging on the brink of death with bone and bone, while insulin pulled him back from the brink of death. In the third year, Banting and Best won the Nobel Prize, and subsequently, they gave up their sky-high priced patent and only converted it for a symbolic price of billions of dollars. I gave it to the university to ensure that insulin can be produced inexpensively and save more lives. With the success of insulin, scientists have successively discovered various hormones that determine our physical characteristics, emotions, and even thoughts. Humans have finally deciphered the chemical code of the body, but this immediately triggered a hormone war, with major pharmaceutical companies investing heavily in the development of hormone drugs. But the main battlefield of this war is not in the laboratory, but in the cultural concept of the masses. Advertising is no longer simply selling a medicine, but constantly promoting an ideal lifestyle paradigm. They don't sell testosterone, but sell leadership qualities and motivation for success. Not estrogen, but timeless beauty and charm. A cultural trend of chemical determinism has quietly permeated into the mechanisms of society through magazines, movies, and clinics, gradually defining aging, sadness, and even introverted personalities as a chemical imbalance that needs to be repaired. This cultural narrative is extremely tempting because it promises a shortcut that bypasses arduous personal struggles and complex social movements, simplifying the answers to life into bottles of chemical-labeled potions. But are we really just a sophisticated biochemical machine, firmly controlled by complex circuits such as the hypothalamic pituitary and renal axis? On the contrary, the century-long history of endocrinology we are talking about is not about how humans were determined by chemistry, but a story of how humans were liberated from chemical tyranny. In there, before the discovery of insulin, diabetes patients were prisoners of uncontrolled blood sugar and had no choice but to wait for death before understanding thyroid hormones. Many children lost their right to normal development forever due to their shortcomings, and even before understanding sex hormones. People were just prisoners of their own physiological cycles, and their bodies and destinies seem to have been written long ago. It can be said that every major discovery of hormones is a liberation, turning the shackles that were once attributed to fate or physical constitution into chemical problems that can be understood and intervened in. We also gained bargaining chips for the first time to negotiate with our own ancient physiological mechanisms. It can be said that we have passed through the era of fish that relied on fate. The question now is, as a mobile and chemically modifiable species, where should we choose to go?